Hello, everybody. Welcome to Country Lennon Now. I am Casey Gibbs, and we are joined this week by a man who has had 35 studio albums, half a dozen top tens, and quite a few successes on TV with Nashville on the Road, Yesteryear, and Statler Brothers Show. We did into all that. Help me welcome Rex Allen Jr. Rex, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing really well. Thank you, Casey. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Trying to stay cool down here. It's hot in Texas right now.
I'm playing golf tomorrow here in Nashville. I play with a group of guys. We call ourselves the Flat Rockers, and I'm new to the group. I've been with them for 10 years, and they've been playing golf together for 50 years, these guys.
Oh, wow.
Tomorrow, it's only here in Nashville, it's only supposed to be 79. So it's going to be gorgeous here. You
Wow.
guys,
I'll trade with you. We're at, I think, 102 or 103 tomorrow.
goodness me. Yeah, well, it's coming my way.
Well, you can have it. I'm done with it.
I know. Well, it'll be fall soon enough.
Yeah, it will. How's everything? I know you retired a few years ago. How's life?
I retired in 2017, and I still perform, but not much. What I tell people is I'm not out soliciting dates. And if somebody calls me that is a friend and says, Rex, will you come and do something? I'll say, sure. I've got a friend here in town. You probably know him, Bobby Marquez.
Mm-hmm.
And Bobby and Jennifer, his wife, I'll do anything they want. And last year we did the Bluebird, which is the first time I ever did the Bluebird, and we sold it out in 12 minutes.
Wow.
I'm doing another songwriter deal for him down in Alabama, I think, late in the year. And then next year I'm doing a show out in Lone Pine, California. A lot of people don't know it, but there's a wonderful museum out there, the Lone Pine Cowboy. It's a cowboy museum, and they shot a lot of films there. Dad shot 2 films there, and the original Charge of the Light Brigade was shot there. Star Wars was shot there. It's all of the Lone Ranger shows were shot there. So they have a great museum. And so I'm going out there, and they're having a special Rex Allen deal and I'm going out for that, and I'm going to perform for 45 minutes. So I do perform some. I still, though I'm retired, they say, well, what do you do? And what do you do with your time? Well, where I'm sitting is in my home studio, and I still record all the time. It's a hobby to me, but the best way for me to put it to you is that what I always liked about what I did for a living was the creativity that was in the music and going in the studio and creating the songs that were out there, whether they be It's Over or Solitaire or Two Less Lonely People or any of those songs. Like Lonely Streets. Lonely Streets was really interesting. I'll tell you that story in a second. So I'm still creative in the studio, and even though I've been sick, as we talked about beforehand, I don't have a problem talking about with
you. Okay.
I'm still recording all the time, and just in the last year and a half, 18 months, I think I've got 25 or 30 new cuts. I still release singles. Of course, they're released, and I got a guy out of California that releases them, and mainly they're overseas. And the song that I sent you this morning is, heck, I'm top 10 in Germany with it. I'm top 10 in the Netherlands, top 10
Oh, wow. Okay.
Top 10 in Australia, New Zealand, Germany. So, and so, I still record all the time, and because that's the creative side of it. So it's become kind of a hobby. So I still play, still sing pretty good. Do I sing like I did when I was 40? Hell no. I'll tell you the one thing that's happened as you grow old. I used to yodel a lot, especially in my live performances.
I remember that.
Yodel, that went away. But I can still hit the notes and still sing. So and play guitar. I still play guitar and I'll do all that sort of thing. So doing shows for people, I will do them. Gladys and Leroy Van Dyke, if they were to call me, I would do anything they want. I do things for St. Jude, so I'm still out there.
You're still active.
Still like, yeah, I'm still active.
So, I mean, in essence, you really never really retired. You just cut back.
My dad told me, he'd said, son, you never retire. He says, what you do is just raise your price.
There you go.
And and that works for a while until somebody says, okay, I'll pay you that. And then hell, you got to go do it.
Got to go do it. Yeah. Cool not to. You talked about Lonely Street of all.
Yeah.
You hit on that.
The Lonely Street, to my knowledge, and that was done back in the year that Elvis died, whatever year was that, it was 74, 76.
77, I think.
7. Lonely Streets was number 2 on the national charts. I can remember I was in Kansas working a fair, and we announced, and Lonely Streets was number 2 on the charts, and they announced that Elvis had died, and that record never went from 2 to 1. It was supposed to go to number 1, but because of Elvis's death, it never went to number 1 because they froze the charts for a month.
Oh, really? That I didn't.
Yeah, they froze the charts for a month, and every record pressing plant in the United States did nothing but press Elvis Presley records for a month. So the charts didn't move, so I didn't get a number 1 record out of it. But one of the interesting things about Lonely Streets is that, to my knowledge, it is still the last time that it was a live session of that kind in Nashville. We did it. Berg and White did the charts, and we went to the studio into Jack Clement B, which is the big studio, and with the full 30-piece string orchestra and the background singers and all the charts written and everything else, and we cut it live. It was a live cut. And so it's a great record, and I it's still probably, am I most known for that? Yeah, but there are other songs too that.
Yeah, and we're going to play some of those during the show. I think we're going to do No, Drink It Down Lady, It's Over, and the one you sent me this morning. So,
okay.
But let's go ahead and play Lonely.
Got to play Arizona, damn it! There, I wrote a state song for the state of Arizona.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find. I'll see if we can find that. We may. Yeah, we'll see if we can find that. But let's go ahead and do Lonely Street.
Okay.
Right now, since we're talking about it, Rhett Silent Jr., Lonely Street on Country Lennon Now.
I'm looking for that lonely street. I've got a sad, sad tale to tell. I need a place to go and weep. Where's this place called Lonely Street? A place where there's just loneliness, where dim lights bring forgetfulness, where broken dreams and memories meet. Where's this place called Lonely Street? Perhaps upon that lonely street there's someone such as I, who came to bury broken dreams and watch an old love die. If I could find that lonely street where dim lights bring forgetfulness, where broken dreams and memories meet, where's this place called Lonely Street? Where's this place called Lonely Street?
Rex Allen Jr., Lonely Street on Country Then and Now. That was, you said number 2?
Went to number 2. Yeah. Never went number 1.
So what was it about, when I was looking last night, 6 top 10s? Did I count that right?
Yeah, I don't know. Bill Anderson is one of those people that can tell you what date and what time the record
I know.
out.
And
I'm not that way. I think when I retired in 2017, they did a discography out in Wilcox, Arizona, which is where Dad's museum and my museum is. And they figured it up. And I've had over 50 top 50 records on the Billboard charts.
Wow.
A lot. And the only reason why so many of them didn't go number 1 was simply because Warner Brothers just wasn't capable of doing it. And I don't even know that they are today. I'm still trying to figure out how Warner Brothers is still even in existence.
Well, you got Kenny Chesney and Zach Brown to thank.
Well, yeah.
So
the record companies nowadays have gone the way of the motion picture studios. They're nothing but distributors now.
Right. Yeah.
And they really are not even good at that. I think that most of the artists, like Zach Brown especially, he's promoting his own stuff, and he's become such a cult guy, and I really like him a lot. And Chesney, Nora Wilson, who was one of the producer on the early Kenny Chesney stuff. I live in his house. I bought his house.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I live in I live in Nora's house. I bought it, and I renamed it. It's called the Treehouse. But the record companies are. I don't really understand it. It's like somebody says, if somebody were to say to me today, Rex, I got a son or a daughter that wants to be in the music business. How do they get into the music business? I have no clue.
Right. I don't think anybody does anymore unless you're on TikTok.
Well, yeah, it's a TikTok thing and streaming and that sort of stuff, and I don't really understand it. And I guess I'm too old to fight it. I will say this: I more than anything on earth, I admire what goes on in Texas, and the folks down in Texas have always been what I always tell people, because I've been on the board of directors of the International Western Music Association for years, and I'm a member of that Hall of Fame. As a matter of fact, the last 5 Western songs that charted on the Billboard charts were all mine, and that was back in the 80s. But what I tell people about music is that country music always has been and always will be a Texas art form. And when they say, "What do you mean?" I say, well, what you have to remember is 60 to 65% of all the country and Western music sold on the earth is sold in Texas.
Yeah.
And so, if your stuff is not popular in Texas, you're not going to be successful. That's why during my career, I did what we call halftime songs. I was involved in JMI Records right in the beginning where we developed all of that with Jack Clement, and the main artist was Don Williams that we worked. And we developed that boom chukka boom chukka boom chukka. And part of the reason why it was so successful, like No 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 and Solitaire and Two Less Lonely People, It's Over, all that other stuff of my music was because I designed it for people to be able to dance to,
Right.
and if you can't dance to it in Texas, it ain't going to,
It's not going to work.
it's not going to work. But it's kind of like George Strait. George. I mean, obviously, there's nobody like George Strait on the face of the earth. But the first television show he did was Nashville on the Road, and down in Florida, and he was just a new act, and I was one of the hosts, and Jim Stafford.
You and Jim Stafford, yeah.
And I pulled my wife at the time over, and I said, "You need to look at this kid." I said, "This kid's is going to go places." And she looked at him and says, I don't see it. But George, to give you an idea, George Strait was selling, 5,000 tickets to a venue in Houston or San Antonio or Austin or Fort Worth or someplace like that. But you take him into Little Rock and he'd only sell 50 or 100 tickets. So, you can be a success in Texas and not be popular anywhere else. Jerry Jeff Walker is a prime example. Like that.
And there's a lot of people down here. There's a lot of people down here that's doing that these days with the Texas red dirt scene. They can sell Billy Bob's 5,000 or 6,000 tickets. You take them up north to Michigan or whatever,
and they can't sell 5. Nobody knows who they are.
Yeah.
And so I think that, and Casey, I'm in the process of writing a book, and the book is in 3 phases, and I've already done the first part. First part was talking the truth about my dad and his career and growing up in his youth, and then the second part is going to be about my time growing up in Southern California and up to the point where I got to Nashville in 1971. And then the third part of the book is going to talk about what the 70s and from about 1970 to about 1985 here in Nashville, and Texas and anywhere else in the and it didn't make any difference whether you're talking about country or rock and roll.
Right.
The period in music, from a country music standpoint, was the most creative time in country music history, and the most creative time in music history. I think we had more creative freedom than they do now. They don't have any creative freedom at all. I mean,
right.
And it shows. That's why I think it's hilarious. My grandson is 17 years old and he plays baseball and football, and so he needed somebody to go with him down to Birmingham from Nashville to play baseball. So I stuck him in I said, I'll drive him down there. And so he and I got in the car and he drove, and I said, Jackson, I said, you're driving. So I said, you get to choose what you want to listen to. And he said to me, he says, well, I want to listen to 70s and 80s rock and roll pop. I said, really? He said, yeah. And my granddaughter, who's 14, that's what she listens to. When you go to the football games here in Tennessee, and I'm sure it's the same way down there, we hear 80s, 70s, and 80s rock and roll and country.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in Texas. And I don't care if I look at the grandparents and say, what the hell are they going to do in 20 years? They're still going to play the 70s and 80s. Well, it's
probably so. Yeah. They're definitely not going to play anything in modern.
No, they don't play any of that stuff. And so I think that's why I am so thankful for the Texas music scene, because it's still alive and well down there. Country music is well down there. It's not here. Nashville's not a country music capital anymore. I don't think Texas is.
Yeah. There's people that would argue that, but I'm not one of them.
Well, they're crap if they're going to try to argue with it. It's just true.
I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and do No. I'd rather be free. Let's go ahead and play that.
What's free on No. We'll tell on that one real quick. That was
go for it.
Will Holyfield and Bob McDill, And I'd gone in and I was looking for songs, and I'd cut a bunch of Waylon Holyfield and Bob McDill tunes in the past. And Waylon Holyfield, who just passed away just a few months ago, by the way, he played me a bunch of songs, and I said, Waylon, I just don't hear those, and so on and so forth. And I was walking out of the building, and I heard Bob McDill's demo on No, No, No. And I said, that's the song I want. And they said, oh, no, 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 no. That's a rock and roll song. And I said, it's not a rock and roll song. That's a country song. So we went in the studio and cut No, No, No.
And it ended up being a top 10.
It was a hit. Yes, it was.
It was a hit. Let's go ahead and play it. Country Then and Now. No, no, no. I'd rather be free. Rhett Sellon Jr.
I've been around, nothing tied me down. I was raised to win. Then I showed her the nights and the neon lights that she'd never known. But as time went by, I saw in her eyes that something was wrong. She said, don't you know I love you? Can't you tell by now? Why don't we get married? Settle down. I said, no, 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 that's not my style. Yes, I know that you love me so, but let's wait a while. I said, no, 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 I'd rather be free. And golden rings would only bring change for you and me. As the days went by, I watched her changing, and I could tell the things I said about being free was she learned too well. Then there came a time when I realized she was slipping away. It was then I knew I was changing too, and I heard myself say, don't you know I love you? Can't you tell by now? Why don't we get married? Settle down. She said, no, 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 that's not my style. Yes, I know that you love me so, but let's wait a while. She said, no, 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 I'd rather be free. Golden rings would only bring change for you and me. Oh, no, 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 that's not my style. Yes, I know that you love me so, but let's wait a while. She said, no, no.
No, no, no. I'd rather be free. Rhett Sellon Jr. on Country Then and Now. At the top of the show, you were talking to me about a song that is top 10 right now overseas.
Well, yeah. The current album I have out is called Then and Now, and that's on Country Rewind Records. And actually, I've already had a number one record on one of the independent charts with Dream On Texas Ladies. That came out again, and it was
Really?
number one on that chart. And then I have another single that's released out of there called Memory Train, and I'll tell you the story on it, but the Memory Train it's top 10 in Germany,
Really?
Australia, New Zealand, all over the UK and the Netherlands, and internationally. It's pretty cool, you know. But that song with Memory Train was written by a guy named Rick Cox. And all of us who back in the band days, you get people pitching you songs all the time, and that come up and say, "Would you listen to my songs, Cowboy?" And I said, "No, not really." And here's the tape. Okay, give me the tape. Well, will you mail it back to me and tell me? And no, I'll just listen if I'll find. In all of the years on the road, people, and I had a post office box, and I tell people to send me stuff.
Yeah.
All those years of people never had anybody. I never found one song. This kid walked up and knocked on the bus door one night, and I was working a club, I think in Tulsa or Oklahoma City, and he knocked on the bus door and he said, I got some songs I want to play. And I said, "Oh, heck, come on in." And so he had a cassette player, and we threw him on the tape. And I listened to the stuff, and I said, "Where in the heck have you been?" And he played me this song, the beginnings of it, and then he and I went in and rewrote it. And I cut it back in the mid '80s, and then I've re-released it on the new album. So it's called Memory Train.
Okay, well, good deal. I think the one you sent me was Haunted.
Haunted?
Yeah.
No, I don't want a Haunted. The Memory Train is the one I'm going to send you. Do you want me to try to send you that one?
Yeah, if you can.
I will, but I have to put the phone. Hold on.
I tell you what, while you're doing that, let's go ahead and play Drink It Down, Lady.
Do that.
Give you time to do that, and then we'll come back to Memory Train.
You got it.
All right.
Thanks.
Yep.
Can put out the fire in your eyes. Are you smiling or crying for the men who have tried? Lost as a bad dream she had as a child. The men could all see through her painted on smiles. Never fulfilling and never enough. Thirsty beyond what she found in a cup that sang, "Drink it down, lady, like it was your last." You know your future got lost in your past. No man can put out the fire in your eyes. Are you smiling or crying for the men who have tried? They've got a name for a woman like you, a bandage for their pride. Only they knew how deep was that river, how hard was flow. Where does all of that good love go? And that sing, "Drink it down, lady, like it was your last." You know your future got lost in your past. No man can put out the fire in your eyes. Are you smiling or crying for the men who have tried? Oh, drink down, lady, like it was your last. You know your future got lost in your past. No man can put out the fire in your eyes. Are you smiling or crying for the men who have tried? Oh, drink, drink, lady, like it was your last. You know your future got lost in your past. No man can put out the fire in your eyes. Are you smiling?
Drink It Down, Lady, Rhett Salen Jr. on Country Then and Now. Rhett, are you back with us?
Yeah,
There you are. Okay.
That's a single version, by the way. There's two versions. There's one that was on the original album, and when we released it as a single, I didn't like the guitar part, so we went back in and I put in more of what is nowadays called a rock and roll guitar part, um, and put it out. Also, too, the other thing is that the guy that wrote it is still mad at me.
For what?
Well, he's still mad, and the reason why is he wrote it as a waltz. Lost
Oh,
as a bad dream you've had as a child.
huh.
I said no, and so I made it 4/4. And he's still mad at me. It never pitched me another song after that.
Well, he got a top 10 out of it, didn't he? So,
Well, yeah, and heck, he bought a house. He made so much money, he bought a house, and so. But I did that too with a single that I had out a couple of years ago. Actually, it's been out twice. Once was back in the '90s, and then once again it was released just a couple of years ago, and that's "Dream On, Texas Ladies."
right.
And that kid won't talk to me anymore either. He wrote that as "Dream On, Texas Ladies" about cowboy. He wrote it as a waltz. And I changed it. I said, hell, that's no good. You can't dance to it. I changed it to halftime, and it was a big record. It's been a big record twice now.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about "Dream On, Texas Ladies," which is on the Then and Now album, is that a kid recently on one of the major labels here released it as a waltz. It was stiff. It wasn't a hit. So I guess that Rex Allen Jr. was right. It's 4.
He was right. Yeah. And like my mama used to say, you can get glad in the same shoes you got mad in. So
that's right.
Chance, are you good for memory? Okay. We got Memory Train lined up. So
and it's just a great song, and I hope everybody enjoys it.
well, good deal. Let's
like it in Germany, I know.
yeah. You said top 10 in Germany?
Yeah.
Good deal. All right. Well, here we go. Memory Train on Country Lennon Now.
Sometimes you run through my mind like a train, stop at my heart just to haunt me again. I'm already crazy, so can't go insane. Roll on with your memory train. Sometimes I get brave, go out with my friends. I'm having a good time. Suddenly then, your memory train rolls on by me again. Roll on with your memory train. And your memory train rolls by with a full load of pain. And I am taking the blame on your memory train. It runs through the soul of me. Why can't you let go of me? I'm crying again on your memory train. Sometimes when I'm finally sleeping at night, you come rolling through with your unwanted light. How can I forget you, your picture so bright? Roll on with your memory train. And your memory train rolls by with a full load of pain. And I am taking the blame on your memory train. It runs through the soul of me. Can't you let go of me? I'm crying again on your memory train. Sometimes you run through my mind like a train, stop at my heart just to haunt me again. I'm already crazy, so I can't go insane. Roll on with your memory train. Roll on with your memory train. Roll on with your memory train.
Memory Train, Rhett Sallen Jr., Country Then and Now, off of the Now and Then album.
No, Then and Now.
Then and Now. Okay. Like I said, Then and Now. So,
You were right the first time.
yeah. So, before we get out of here, a couple of things I want to hit on, because you did have a lot of success on TNN back in the 90s with Statler Brothers Show and the spinoff of Yesteryear.
I certainly did.
How was that? Because that was Statlers were number one rated show on TNN.
Well, and Yesteryear was number 2.
Yep.
Somebody did. There was a guy that was a marketing guy, and he did the number and the numbers on TNN when Yesteryear was on with the Statler Brothers on Saturday nights. We were the highest rated cable shows, and still are the highest. That was the highest 2 hours of television in cable history. There were more people watching us than were watching CNN.
Wow.
The Statler Brothers show, I can remember I had divorced, left Nashville, remarried, moved to Tyler, Texas, and the phone rang, and now she's my ex-wife, but my ex-wife said, "I think you need to take this." I said, "Why?" She says, "Well, it's somebody named they're calling themselves the Statler Brothers." Really? So I got on the phone, and it was Harold and Don, and I'd known Harold and Don for years because they were big Western film fans. As a matter of fact, when they first got together, they went and saw one of my dad's first film, and he sang a song called Arizona Waltz. And they said, that's how they learned to sing harmony, was they all got together and learned to sing Arizona Waltz. But they said, "We're doing a TV show in Nashville. We want you to be on it." I said, "I'd love to be on it. I said, "When do you want me to be there? And how many do I get to do? One show or what?" They said, "Oh, no, Rex, we want you to do all of them." And I said, "Okay." Okay, sold. And they said, and it was a wonderful experience for not only me, but I think Janie will tell you the same thing, Fricky, because Fricky those shows too. It was a marvelous time in country music that we got to do those shows. I'm sorry that they're not out there, but there's.
I am too. I would love to.
I'd love to see them again. I got them all here in the house, but God, don't tell anybody. But there were so many wonderful things that happened on that show. I mean, the first time Faith Hill was on TV was on the Statler Brothers. It was the first time that so many artists, Alan Jackson, the first time he was ever on television was on that show. But there were other great people. Eddie Arnold did it, and we got to work with Roger Miller, and it's just amazing the people who were on the show. And when it spun off, they came to me and said, "Rex, we want to spin this off and do its own series." And I said, "Okay." So they offered it to Janie, and she turned it down. And that's when Lisa Stewart came in, and of course Lisa's still a friend, and she sings around town here still,
Yeah.
and brilliant. And Eddie Raven, I saw Eddie Raven last Saturday, and Raven was on it, and Kathy from Bailey and the Boys,
Kathy Bailey. Yeah.
Kathy Bailey was on it, and she's a sweetheart too, by the way. But by the way, Eddie's not well. He's not doing real well. But
I wondered about him the other day.
He's not doing well. I hadn't seen him in quite a while. He's stopped performing, and he's just, damn it. Toby Keith said it. Don't let the old man in. But sometimes the gun comes and gets you.
Sometimes he comes in whether you want him to or not.
But back to my story. We had the guy that did the background research on Statler Brothers in yesteryear, and the Statler Brothers and me and Janie, we had over 1 billion viewing hours on the Statler Brothers.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't get a record deal here in town during that time period. And they said, well, or I couldn't even, Janie and I couldn't even get an agent to book us. And they said, well, Rex, we can't book you. And I said, well, why can't you? And they said, well, you don't have a record in the top 10. And I said, I'm hitting more people per week are watching me than are listening to Garth Brooks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much.
Understand television. And now they do.
Yeah.
And because a prime example is Lainey Wilson. Is that her name?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Started on Yellowstone. Had it not been for Yellowstone, we wouldn't know anything about her.
Right.
So television, right. It was an amazing thing. And the audience, you hate to get technical. I told you that 60 to 65% of all country music and Western music is sold in Texas. Well, let me tell you the other one too, is that as much as the record companies here are now, they try so hard to get the 14 to 22-year-olds, but country music is and always has been basically a 35 to 40 plus market.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
and they said, well, it's like somebody said, somebody said to me once, they said, I had a company called Music Shop, and it was and you dial 1-800 for a hit, and I developed, me and another guy named Bill Vorndek, we developed the software, which is now iTunes. And we were selling albums over ran ads on TNN, and we were selling albums by mail and that sort of stuff. And I went in and met with a guy at RCA Victor, and he said, Rex, he says, you don't understand. You want me to buy advertising on for your site. And he says, we're trying to appeal to the 14 to 25-year-olds. And I said, you know what? I said, let me tell you something. I said, who do you think's the biggest selling artists that we have at the Music Shop? And they said, oh, it's probably somebody, it wasn't Kenny Rogers, but it was one of the new hat acts. And I said, wrong. I said, it's the Hee Haw Gospel Quartet. I said, there's some more albums than Ronnie Mills said.
Yeah.
But I think that the Statler Brothers, we hit that market so well. We hit, you didn't have to worry about being offended by anything.
Right.
We were all happy and gay and sang a bunch of wonderful songs. And people say, how many, after I'm long dead, my grandchildren are going to make a lot of money, because I think I counted it up, and I did over 300 songs on the Statler Brothers in yesteryear.
Wow.
And sooner or later, all of those things will come out.
Mm-hmm.
It's like my dad has, if you go on iTunes, you'll find a lot of record stuff on my father. But they are all things that Dad did when he was on the National Barn Dance, or all the old radio transcriptions and stuff like that. So the Statler Brothers show was a lot of fun. It was a wonderful time in country music, And, you know, when we did the last one, I was there doing the last series of the Statler Brothers shows. I actually had a show in Las Vegas and had moved to Vegas. And I had a show at the Orleans Hotel, a big production show, cast of 35 doing country music.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in having makeup when they announced that CBS had bought TNN. And they were all jumping around and screaming and yelling, isn't this going to be great? We're going to have more money. And the next morning I went in and I said, well, have you guys all calmed down some? And they said, well, why? What do you mean? I said, I've seen big companies buy little ones before. And it wasn't long after that, they fired everybody, canceled the Statler Brothers, Yesteryear, everything they could get their hands on.
Yeah.
Canceled Crook and Chase. They canceled everything and moved the network. The reason why CBS bought it was because we had 56 million households that were watching the network, and they bought it and changed it to Spike TV, and I don't know what it is now.
I think it evolved into Paramount Plus.
It maybe did. I
did.
talked to a name that you may know named Jim Halsey.
Yep.
And Jim, he's a very smart man. And this has been 10, 15 years ago. He says, well, I think I put together a group that's going to be able to put together a new kind of country music television like TNN. I said, and you'll never do it, Jim. I said, how much money you got? And he says, $100 million. I said, that ain't enough. I said, you're going to need $1 billion to bring back something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that the shows eventually will come back. Eventually we'll all be able to see them again.
Right.
Because historically in music, I think they're absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. Everything old is new again at some point. So
everything around comes around it. My dad used to tell me, he says, you want to be a songwriter, huh, son? I said, yes, sir. And he says, all a songwriter does is try to figure out a new way to say I love you all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you doing this. This has been fun.
Thank you. I've had a great time too.
We'll have to do it again because we got stuff we didn't get to, songs we didn't get to play. So we'll have to do this again.
Well, everybody wish me a happy birthday Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. Friday is his birthday.
77 years old. I'm cancer free, and I'm gonna be here a lot longer, picking and grinning.
Good deal. We're glad to hear it.
Great to see you. Thanks, Casey.
You bet. Thank you. Everybody take care. Love one another. We'll see you next week. God bless.